I know a lot of you are wondering about what happened with the budget over the weekend. That or you're just um, really bored today. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Nick Cook, Director of Public Policy for the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. And this is your Legislative Action Committee meeting for July 6th. And you should be able to see my slides now. If I can get somebody to acknowledge that they can see the slides, that'd be great.
We can see him.
All right. Just want again to echo what Sarah said. If you have not, please put your name and where you're from in the chat box so that we all know who's in the room and can lean on each other for your knowledge when it comes to certain areas. So thank you again for everybody taking time today to join us. Um, the MICA mission continue to improve systems and support the communities in a way that leaves no one behind. I think it's great that we ground ourselves in this because we do want to continue to improve and make sure that our neighbors are taken care of no matter what. The
And just a
policy.
reminder, sorry, Nick, to jump in. We do need your help. So if you haven't become a MICA member, please join us at myhomeless.org because the more of you we can have as collaborative partners, the better.
Thank you. Because that is important. That allows us to do these meetings and do things like the Sarah and Nick podcast that we called Unhoused and Unfiltered. So if you have not liked and subscribed that, please go to that for some pretty candid conversations that we have. Excited about the next couple that we've had come out, especially as we go forward. Again, the priorities, and I don't think anybody is surprised by what these priorities are, and we want to make sure at the end of the day that we're strengthening the homeless support systems so that those that are unhoused receive the services and the dignity they deserve. Again, thank you all for coming here today. We'll get right into the federal updates and the state updates. I know everybody's excited, wants to know what's going on, and just trying to understand the state budget process. Federal updates. We still have the THUD FY26 appropriations. First and second quarter renewals should have been notified and released. If not, again, reach out to your member of Congress, reach out to Micah, let us know what's going on. NAEH continues to post surveys to try to understand if anybody's receiving their funding. And this has become a new push. Nobody should be surprised by the president's budget proposal. We've already talked about this, and you're probably like, Nick, why are we seeing this slide again? And we'll continue to talk about that throughout this. But a lot is going on in Congress, and I don't think it's very well noticed. But there is some rub between the administration and the Senate, and it's causing a lot of consternation and a lot of slow rolling of bills and things like the budget. Just so those of you that don't know, PIT count increased 4.3%, up to 10,155. I know we use HMIS data across the state every year to kind of talk about our homeless population, but this point in time count is very good at a snapshot of what's happening. So from January of 24 to 25, January of 25, just on that one night, we saw 4.3% increase. As we look at the data across the state, we see 25 pushing in on a 10% increase. And that explains a lot of what everybody's seeing on the streets, seeing in their continuums of care, seeing in their communities. So we're continuing to watch that. Again, nationally, homelessness was down. Michigan being the bellwether of the economy and things going on nationally, we see that increase, which is going to be the trend nationally, especially as more and more of the social safety net is eroded. President's HUD proposal, just want to quickly go through this again. 73.5 billion was the top line, down from FY 26 to 77.3. Some of the big programs not funded, um, and then no funding for the youth homeless demonstration project. Homeless assistance grants were decreased by almost 400 million. And then it was also put in with the emergency shelter grant to talk about these expanded emergency solutions. So the COC framework, as we know it, would go away with more focus on the transitional and the emergency sheltering program. HUD rental assistance talked about the 20 hours of approved work criteria, activities per week. And then tenant-based rental assistance saw a $608 million increase, but way inflation's going, it would not cover all the renewals, therefore it would be a cut. Other notable sections, we saw Section 202, 811 funding cut. We saw PHAs, no new vouchers or otherwise new families. Exception was for HUD VASH and family reunification, and proposed 30 million for vouchers for those aging out of foster care. So that was kind of the silver lining there, was that 30 million for aging out of foster care. And then the overall catch-all was this program integrity initiative, talking about fraud, waste, and abuse. The big one at the end was the entities that use funding to proselytize woke agendas. What does that mean? We don't know. Does that include LGBTQI? Does that include DEI? Does that include housing justice? Does that talk? That is a catch-all for the department to kind of just defund programs they don't like or people they don't like. So we were watching that very closely. HUD came out, or House's HUD proposal. I think I talked about this last time. The chairman for the appropriations sat in on the HUD meeting that Secretary Turner was in. He told the chair, he told Secretary Turner, "You're probably the only director that's going to come in here and walk out with more money than he has requested." House really believes in a lot of the programs that were defunded, so they were going to see increases, and it's shown in their budget. Proposed 71.38 billion, down from 77.3. Section 202 was funded with a $30 million increase. Section 811 was funded with an $8 million increase. Some of the programs that were previously cut, you see, are now restored. Not at their current funding levels, but at least restored. Yes, I had a question from Rachel.
Nope, that was an accident. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Homeless assistance grants saw a modest decrease, 257 million. But the big news out of that was it rejected the expanded emergency solutions grants as proposed by the administration. It still continued the homeless assistance grants and the emergency shelter grant as two separate buckets of money. And then ESG received flat funding. HUD rental assistance, the House rejected the proposed 20 years of approved work activities and the 5-year time limit. Again, tenant-based rental assistance saw a modest increase, but again, not enough to actually cover everything that is needed. So it's essentially a cut. They did maintain the 30 million for vouchers for those aging out of foster care. Family self-sufficiency program was funded, but was a decrease. Housing counseling assistance was funded, but didn't receive. And then the big one was the 30-day eviction notice rescinded. If you all remember during COVID, when they put this in place, that all HUD assistance dollars needed to have a 30-day notice for evictions out of HUD-funded programs. The administration was putting that through the rules-making process to remove that. And with this House proposal, Congress is circumventing the rules-making process and putting it into law. Again, this is just the House's proposal. This does not include the Senate proposal. And you're going to say, Nick, where's the Senate proposal? Well, that is the problem. Right now, the Senate, which is usually pretty collegial on their budget proposals, and their top line is in a stalemate. Um, a lot of that came out of the funding for Homeland Security. And really, the Democrats have kind of walked away from the negotiations on the top line and want to, come back later at a later date to discuss. Um, Therefore, there is no Senate proposal. Everything's kind of on hold in Senate. And reminder that House is on constituent work period or district work period right now. So will the Senate come back and negotiate the budget? I don't know. But right now, there is no Senate budget proposal. You all heard about the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, passed Congress on June 23rd. President canceled the bill signing on June 24th, saying you must pass the SAVE Act before he'll sign the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. It was overwhelmingly bipartisan. This was years of bill ideas, one-offs here and there, rolled into one big bill. The House passed a bill, the Senate passed a bill, they combined it together, and that's what was passed. Speaker of the House transmitted the bill to the president on June 30th. Bill will become law with or without the president's signature after 10 days since the Senate has not gone on recess. So therefore, there is not an opportunity for a pocket veto. President refers to it as a big yawn, but has not indicated if he will sign just privately or if he will veto. Many people feel that if he vetoes this, it will signify the Republicans losing the midterms significantly. As you know, we are in an election cycle. The president is not, it's a midterm election. Historically, presidents lose seats in the midterm. So Congress is kind of watching all the tea leaves very closely right now to see how this plays out. If the president vetoes this, it will for sure cause a lot of problems. The Road to Housing Act, there is the 21st Century Road to Housing Act sorry, it's a long name. But we have dropped in the chat the analysis of it by Congressional Research Service, kind of give a synopsis of it. You can look up what it all entails. A lot of it is financial, dealing with capital investments into building. It also includes removing, for veterans, removing disability counting towards the HUD VASH voucher. So good news, a lot of fixes here and there. Not a whole lot of earth-shattering, but it's a lot of technical things that will once again get the system, make system improvements, and hopefully increase access to housing. So people that don't know, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, the SAVE Act, which the president is saying is the most important thing, that it will save democracy, passed the House and it's still sitting in the Senate. Senator Thune last week says it's too late. It's too late to affect midterm ballots have already gone out for some states. We're not going to change it now. The president is continuing to push it. The House tried to tie bar it to the National Defense Authorization Act, tried to roll it into there. Senate or House conservatives, along with House ultra conservatives, along with the Democrats, killed the rule to tie them together. The conservatives feel that it should be a standalone bill and move by itself. And the Democrats just don't want it to move, so that's why they joined forces. Strange bedfellows, but in the end, it's a good news that it is not moving. I don't think the Senate has any intention of bringing it up anytime soon, but tying it to the National Defense Authorization Act would have been a way to make it a must-pass legislation. I'm going to talk real quick here about the litigation, and then pass it over to my colleague Sarah Rennie to kind of go into further detail. But good news, we won on the FY25 NOFO. It is null and void. But that's kind of where everything stops, and I'll turn it over to Sarah to kind of give a quick update.
So I'm happy to answer questions because this is always about as clear as mud. But we sued on the 25 NOFO. Both of them, both of them have been we won, which is fantastic. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Again, we need your support on this, so please become a member of MICA. It allows us to do this work. If you haven't already, we go to myhomeless.org and become a member. So we were able to win. The a memorandum of law was issued. I sent it out. If you didn't get a copy, let me know. The order essentially uh, says that the 25 NOFO is null and void. Um, Unfortunately, the judge didn't reach some of the constitutional things that we had hoped to because she didn't have to. What that means is the judge made a decision based on not how the NOFO went out, not what was in the NOFO, because there's certain process and procedure that HUD didn't follow. We had, and NAH is the leader, so I certainly don't want to take credit for their work, filed a motion to amend in the 24-25 case to add the 26. The court has said no, primarily because she does not want to prolong this litigation. So, it's essential to understand. If someone could help Deshaun, Nick, could you let him know that we're happy to see if we can get him a shirt and that he can certainly become how he becomes a member in the chat. Sorry. Um, so as to the what's going on with 26, which is what most of you want to know, is the judge said, "Hey, it's too late to add the complaint about 26 to this litigation. You need to file new litigation." So NEH has filed new litigation as of last week, and hopefully they will get, and they are seeking an injunction saying that the 26 NOFO will not go forward. There's a lot of the same problems in this NOFO. Please see me if you want to know some of the underlying legal issues as there were in the prior NOFO. For those of you who are direct service providers, you know that you're still having to go through the process as if the NOFO is going to be valid. And so we expect and hope that there will be an injunction, that the court will say, uh, hey, we're not going to go forward with the 26 NOFO until we have a chance to litigate it, which means we will have to go back just like we did last year and ask Congress to keep everyone stably and levelly funded. So I know that sounds as clear as mud, and I want to answer questions, but at the long and the short of it is, while everyone is going through the process of applying for the 26 NOFO right now, because there's no court order saying you don't have to, we do expect there's a very good chance that the court will enjoin or halt the current NOFO.
Yeah.
Questions? Nick, I know that was about as clear as mud.
Yeah, no, I want to highlight a few things in there. Sarah, talked about this injunction possible stay on the FY26 NOFO, but NAEH is working with their congressional partners and working with their national with their partners and with their Capitol Hill Day this upcoming week to talk about providing language in the FY27 THUD bill to basically continue funding like they are right now on a quarterly basis on renewals. Will that happen? I don't know. They're asking Congress to intervene once again. How willing is Congress to intervene? Time will tell. So there are still a lot of what ifs out there. And as we know more, we'll pass it along. Some of you that belong to our listserv that are members saw that I wrote an email last week talking about the back of the napkin math on how you should be planning. Not telling you how you plan, but basically to let you know that tier two will not be funded across COCs. I know there's hope to get other programs funded through tier two, but you just kind of look at anything outside of transitional housing at the tier two, it probably isn't going to be funded, just based on the back of the napkin math. So, lots to follow on this as we get updates. We will continue to push out information. We have the COC call. If you're a COC lead, please make sure you tune into that because it's a good chance to network with those that are around you, going through the same thing and maybe answer questions that you all have.
And that call is on Friday at 1:30, and it doesn't, you don't have to be a COC lead. Anyone can join. If you haven't gotten an invite, just email Amy or I. We send it out to our membership listserv because it is one of the benefits of membership and to the COCs. So, if you want to get sort of some of that inside information, please become a member. But also, we do want you all at this call, and that'll be Friday at 1:30.
Yeah, and it's also a great chance. So if by the one off that HUD responds to any of your questions that you have sent them, maybe somebody in the group has the same question and you could share that out. But we know HUD is not really sharing out responses, but really working together will make this process as painless as we can. But it's a great time. It's a great opportunity to get together and just kind of go through as much as we all know. Toolkits, the National Alliance on Homelessness, MICA, as we get more and more information, we'll put those out. Keep up to date with our legislative tracker, with our call to actions. And then NLIHC has some budget resources out there. Make sure you go to those, check out those, and just, the more information you have, the better. Congress works for you. You can take action. Call your member of Congress. We just talked about the district work period is going on right now. I know it's an election year. Reach out to them, talk to them. NAEH this week has Capitol Hill Day. Myself, Sarah, and a lot of people on this call will be participating in that. Have these conversations. It's the beginning of the conversation, not the end. Start building those relationships. So far, across the board, I have not seen a member of Congress or their staff stop talking to us because homelessness is complicated, and I think everybody has a voice and everybody has some thoughts on what works and what doesn't work. And we all need to just have honest conversations. If in doubt, reach out. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me or Sarah Rennie. We're happy to answer as honestly as we can, or at least try to get you an answer. All right, this is what everybody's here for, the big state update. State legislature passed its budget on July 3rd. Still waiting governor's signature, though. General government was 52.3 billion. School aid was 22.9 billion. Therefore, it was a reduction off of last year. Just kidding. They shifted 9.3 billion into a health-related spending contingency fund. So basically, it was a little bit over last year's. In school aid, they did a thing called receive and expend to make it look like they really aren't spending as much money as they did last year. These are all budgetary tricks that they do at the state. Um, when overall spending was up a little bit this year, based on cost of living, and based on the costs of shifted responsibility out of HR1 from the federal government to the state. So, funding for most programs remained flat. There was this shift in this $9.3 billion in this contingency fund. This budget was just released Friday morning, signed into or was passed by both chambers a couple hours after coming in. I'm still digging through it. I know people have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions, and we'll talk about that on the next coming slides. But more and more will come out over the next few days. I'm pretty sure my contacts in the legislature have me on do not disturb because they worked through the night on the second into the third. And when I talked to a few of them on the third, they really said, Nick, I can't honestly answer that. I have no idea what I'm talking about on some of these things because we've just dealt with so much. Um, but we do have some good news coming out of the budget. But there's still a lot to follow. Overall, TANF or temporary assistance for needy families was significantly reduced. Unfortunately, the state government started rolling up the budget quite a few years ago now. And I can't see how things are broken down or where the reduction in funds necessarily are happening at all the times. We do know there was $29.627 million for homeless programs, 11.754 for homeless and runaway youth, which both those programs, homeless programs was down about 4.5 million. Homeless and runaway youth was down about 600,000. And then housing and support services was down about 500,000. What does that mean? I don't know. Overall, in the community services and outreach line, there was almost an $8 million reduction in TANF. So I have a lot of questions. Where did that come from? Where was it shifted? Even in the summary documents, it talks about the shift and the reductions of TANF that the governor recommended and that the House and the um, uh, Senate um, Senate recommendation the Senate and the House concurred on some of those TANF reductions. To be able to see where it came from, I don't know. Because they're all put together, rolled up is what they use in the terms. It is difficult to parse that out. Yes, Pam, it is 13.1. So yeah, it's down about 1.35. Again, don't know where the reductions were or why the reductions happened. So who sits in the conference room, just so that you all know, is on the homeless programs, on the community services outreach, is Representative John Roth from Traverse City, Balance of State area, um, and then Senator Sylvia Santana, who represents Detroit, Dearborn Heights, my old boss. And then which DHHS is different than any other budget. You'll have a representative, you'll have the DHHS department with their budget director, who at the time was Amy Epke. Typically, it's their uh, deputy director. In the previously was Dave Kniezek, but Dave Kniezek left to become Henry Ford College president right before conference. And then there some other people from DHHS. I have really no idea who they are, but they just show up. And then The difference is the state budget office also shows up to that budget negotiation. And the state budget office weighs in from the executive office's perspective. Um, and then you have your House fiscal team and your Senate fiscal team, which House fiscal, I think, is 4 people and Senate fiscal is 3. So you have that whole room. They sit there, they go line by line, they talk about reductions, additions, they negotiate it out, and that is then passed out in a conference report. Conference report is either voted up or down, and that's it. You don't have any other options besides yes or no. You can't amend the report. You can't, I mean, you can pass on it, but you can't amend it. So we did have some one-time funding, section 950, there's 700,000 for HMIS reimagined. We do need 1.3 to continue that going forward. But 700,000 is a great start. And then section 1956 had 5 million for PHS services. That was moved from ongoing into one time. So that's continuing to watch that. Now in the Leo budget, this is where MSHDA falls. For those of you that don't know, MSHDA is a separate entity under labor and labor and employment opportunities budget. Section 1003 made $4 million for the continuum of care. Part of the budget negotiation, and this is all inside baseball. If you guys want to sit down and really hear about how budgets are made and my tongue in cheek about how you create money in the state budget, please, it's a 45-minute conversation on its own. $4 million is set up for the continuum of care. That is to do housing first priorities, to the boilerplate, which is section 1003. Take a look at it. Basically, everything's a continuum of care. It's going to allow you to just use that money for to continue your permanent housing, rapid rehousing. If the budget goes, if the FY26 NOFO goes into place, but then also it's a great opportunity to allow new funding on things like street outreach and other opportunities that COCs have not been able to do in a while. There is going to be $20 million moved from the Making It in Michigan Fund. You won't see it anywhere. This is one of those things that the Making It in Michigan Fund was set up a while ago. You hear about these work projects. They're going to transfer money out of the Making It in Michigan, transfer it over to MSHDA for this line. I'm continuing conversations with the Senate because this was the Senate's #1 priority. So I received phone calls from the Senate this weekend, and they said that 20 million won't show up. So overall, $24 million should be going to the continuum of care program. Again, keeping a real close eye on it because as you'll see here in a minute, there are some other deals wrapped up in the budget negotiation that I feel will play a role in why this money will be transferred. Senate Bill 966, House Bill 5806, 5807 were passed by both chambers. This is the creation of the state LIHTC. It was part of the state budget negotiations. 966 was a Jeff Irwin bill. If you remember, it had 967, 968. That created a new state LIHTC program. That was Jesse, you'll never find it in boilerplate. Just to give you an answer on that. That was part of a backroom handshake deal. And I'll get to that again in a second here, why I feel it will happen. 5570, 5571 is a single stairway for buildings. Again, trying to allow for exceptions for why single stairways can be used. This is actually a very well documented um, process that works. New York has studies on that it actually anything over 6 stories does not increase death in a building, anything like that. It's actually the same. So this is going to allow single stairways for buildings with up to 6 floors. Um, House Bill 6074, prohibition of large institutional investors from buying single family homes. We're part of the state budget negotiation. There's 67 bills in all wrapped up. These are just the ones that kind of touch housing and housing development and low income renters. Tenant protection bills that we've all been advocating for a long time moved out of the state Senate and moved into the state House. Again, part of the budget negotiations. Do I know if they will actually see the light of day? I am not sure. Um, but with that being said, one bill you don't see on here is the changes to the Housing Community Development Fund, which was a priority of both MISTA and uh, and the governor's office. One of my reasons for not supporting the bill was that it was taking money from the lowest income earners and programs that supported our most at-risk families and transferring them uh, to work on missing middle issues. Um, One thing I said was we need, as I've said all along, is we need both. It's not a one or the other. And I think that's why bills both were second chamber bills. Both those bills could have the House version and the Senate version. They both could have been passed as part of budget negotiations. But they were held on to. Um, do I think those bills are being held up until this money is transferred out of the making it Michigan money is transferred to MISTA to do the COCs? I don't know. It's just kind of ironic that those bills that were such a priority got held up during budget negotiations. So I think there may be some validity to that. I'm going to continue to try to unravel this 20 million that's supposed to be transferred over the next week or so. Hopefully, I will have more information as we get further into the month, and I'll keep you all updated. But the one thing is also there will be a supplemental. My belief is this will occur sometime in August after the primaries, after they kind of see things kind of shape out. If not, then it'll be a lame duck. But I don't think anybody wants to wait till lame duck because depending on what happens, lots of weird things can happen as experienced by last lame duck. I know that's a lot of inside baseball, a lot of crazy inside talk. But for those of us that are budget nerds like myself, um, that's just kind of how things roll. I hate to say it that way. My old boss was a finance person by schooling, and she would sit there and argue for hours with me about, well, Nick, that's not how we do accounting. That's not how we do finance. And I would say, well, that's how we do it on the state budget. So does anybody have any questions? I know I threw a lot at you on this. All right. The good news on all of this is um, homeless and housing became a priority in this budget. And it was because of the advocacy of you all and pushing during Advocacy Day on this is real. This is um, Jessica, that is always the question of the day. Sometimes it is things like Selfridge Air Force Base, which is, in my humble opinion, not ever going to come to fruition. But that's kind of, we won't know, but we do know that there is going to be one. The question is, what do they put in it? What does it look like? Is there going to be any special projects, or is it all going to be funding for departments? I don't know. But there definitely, so there is opportunity for things like the TANF cuts to those line items, plussing those up. But again, I'm not in the room. I wish I was because I could answer a lot more of these questions like I could back a couple of years ago, but right now, I'm just kind of waiting, like you all are, to see. Now, the governor in Michigan does have line item veto powers. So what I showed you is as of this morning, if the governor line item vetoes things, that could change things. And then there's also the administrative board procedure, which we all know happened in 2020, where the governor basically took what the Senate and the House did and moved money to everywhere in the priorities. So a lot more to still be seen, but I just want you guys to know this is what's going um, on what's going on. Dan, I see your question. I have not read the final bills yet, but this would be my understanding is that these would be combination, they can be used in combination with the federal LIHTC credit, and on top of other things, for part of the capital stack, that financing piece. I'm not really sure. I need to look back, but I think it's 40 up to $42 million a year, that will be allowed in the tax, credit. But yes, I did talk, Khadijah, the Senator Anthony's repair bill was part of those. And I know there's some issues that with that bill, but it did move over to the House.
And just to circle back to Dan's question, it will work a lot like LIHTC works now. I haven't read the bill either, so I don't know exactly the where they're at AMI and what the target was for the development, but it'll be another tool for development of affordable housing, and essentially developers will be able to have investors purchase those tax credits to raise money. And it's my understanding it will also be a competition, probably this in the same competition, if I were to guess, and this is just a guess, that LIHTC has done. This will be part of the award from MSHDA, that comes with LIHTC.
But lots of positive movement in the housing and housing affordability space. So,
Yeah, it's really going to be a great tool.
all right. I know you all feel that there's not a lot of success right now, in lieu of everything coming down from the federal government. But does anybody want to talk about a member of Congress they met with, or did a tour with, or a state legislature, state legislator that they did a tour with, or anything like that? Now would be the time. Please let us know. We'd love to hear some good news stories.
Well, and before we get there, I do want to take a minute because and it's all very tentative. But we did come make a big impact at the state level, both in terms of the LIHTC, the state version of the LIHTC, and the new investment in homelessness. We see at MICA this is a continuum. It's a both and. Both things are incredibly good. And it's because all of you are coming together and we're raising a voice in a different way. So we really want to share that as our success. And Nick is incredibly modest, but I see the late nights and the middle of the nights and the always being on. And the pushback he gets as well. So I also want to just celebrate his advocacy, so that so you know that he's out there for you guys, and he keeps on keeping on. There were a couple times we were a little worried that he was, um, you know, gonna get banned from certain places. Not really, but he was he is
Close.
an advocate's advocate, you know. So there were folks who were like, "Really, Nick? Okay, sure, I'll take your call again." So we do want to celebrate that because that's a new thing, I think, for our homeless advocacy that we've come together in a different way. So Nick, you have to be uncomfortable for a second while
Yeah.
we say good things about you.
So
And then we
we'll
would also like to hear your thoughts on other successes that you're seeing at a local or state level. And do feel free to come off mute.
I do want to highlight in this that encampment bans are still being enforced. We're seeing a increase. If anybody saw the MICA update or my policy and politics um, video the other day, Owasso did an encampment sweep. If anybody read the article, a couple of the disturbing things came out of it was they don't know how many people lived back there. They didn't know where they went. They just know it was six truckloads that they took out of the area. And to me, that's six truckloads of people's personal goods, six truckloads of their documents, six truckloads of medications that they took out of there. And, we would love to stop that, quit marginalizing individuals, keep pushing them further um, into um, quit pushing them further and further into the margins and deeper into the woods, just because you don't want them there. It doesn't get them resources. Criminalizing homelessness does not solve homelessness.
So, and we want to lift up that we're starting to talk about this differently and really come together. We need to continue to work on opposing criminalization. We want to lift up our board member and partner, Khadijah, in the Tenants Resource Center and the MSU Housing Justice Clinic. We'll also be having a lunch and learn on deed fraud, which is an issue throughout Michigan. I did some litigation on that as well, and if anyone's seeing that, what happens is one of the ways it happens is with the ability of folks to sort of capture a notary signature. Someone forges a quitclaim deed and then sells the property. It becomes a whole mess. And so, if you are seeing that in your community, please let us know. Please let MSU Housing Justice Clinic. Just like with the encampment ordinances, we are keeping an eye on that, and we are really grateful to be able to do that together and to have a sort of statewide response to addressing some of these issues.
All right, Congress Plus, as you all know, we do put out advocacy notes. Continue to watch that. The latest one is a $5.1 billion for the homeless assistance grant line in the THUD bill. That would be 4.6 for the Continuum of Care grant NOFO competition, and then 500 million for the Emergency Shelter Grant Program.
And Nick, if I could just jump in, I know I'm putting a lot in the chat for folks, but I put a screenshot of the tool because the link has been shared a couple times, but Nick does a great job of summarizing the issue. You basically plug in your address on the tracker, and then it has a template email that you can absolutely edit with your own content or narrative and then hit send. It just takes a few minutes. And to dovetail from what Sarah has mentioned, this is another tool, thanks to our MICA members, that we were able to purchase and modify and implement with their financial support as well. But we have that free and available to everyone. So not only can you track the bills that Nick mentioned earlier, you can do a lot of outreach to your Congress folks in Congress very quickly. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. Like updates, policy in place. Like I said earlier, I did one this past weekend on the Owasso camping ban enforcement. Just continue to keep up on socials, like, share, subscribe to our social medias, and we'll update those routinely. All right, summer trainings, Sarah or
I'll be happy to take this. We have a busy couple months ahead, as we've been talking about money and budgets. None of us are immune to having to be well versed in these, and Mike is trying to address that with some training that Sarah and our CEO Eric will be providing. The link is right in the chat. It's a couple weeks from now, and we would encourage you to attend or send somebody from your staff to join. And then we also have three great classes. We talked about Khadijah earlier. She's one of our trainers. We have three trainings in August for street outreach, trauma-informed care, and youth homelessness. So this first link that I just shared was for July only. And then the second one will take you to all of our courses almost through the end of the year. We have it pretty scheduled out. And then just follow, as Nick said, on our socials. I post links to all these trainings as well as our newsletter.
And just a pitch for our trauma-informed care. And after that, there's also one that's going to be coming around pain management. For those of you who need CEUs, we have a really good speaker. She's a nurse practitioner who has done pain management for decades and has done homeless outreach. Please consider checking us out because we are really a low cost way of getting your CEUs as well as getting some good information.
my favorite thing to talk about, unhoused and unfiltered. Join us wherever you can get your podcast. Like, subscribe, comment. We're still sitting in the top 100, but without your viewership, we may drop out of the top 100. And that is of nonprofits nationally. So like,
And if we drop
subscribe.
out, I get fired. So just for my own personal protection, if you could join, like, and subscribe so Nick and Sarah don't kick me to the curb.
And if you're
I'm kidding.
and if you want to come on and talk about issues facing your nonprofit, please reach out to Sarah, myself, or Amy, and or what you're seeing as far as homelessness, or you just have an interesting perspective, please reach out. All right, Amy, you want to do the Breakfast of Champions?
I'll make it brief. Everything's in the slide here. We would love for you to join us. We're in Ann Arbor this year. We try to mix it up around the state. We would love to have you attend and also to nominate folks if you know, and I know you do, folks out in the community doing amazing work. So I will drop that link in the chat, but we would love for you to join. Nominations are closing July 17th. So we have almost 50 nominations, and we encourage you to, it only takes a minute to nominate somebody, and the link is right here in the chat as well. Thanks.
We want your feedback. Please reach out, let us know what's going on, and we'll continue to update you all as we have more information. All right. If you have any additional questions about anything I talked about, please reach out. Feel free to contact me at any time. And Shannon, if you want to stay on for a second here, I'd love to talk to you some more. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you all next month.